back, see who's sharing that information, and then ask yourself if you share the same point of view as that person. And you will find when you see All Lives Matter, you see a lot of other information that maybe you might not be comfortable with. So the piece really talks about why All Lives Matter is not really saying all lives matter. It's saying that Black Lives Matter is not worthy of additional attention, and it explains how, listen, it's a given that lives matter. But Black people in particular have been dealing with certain pressures and risks that other groups have not, and we need to talk about it. All Black Lives Matter as well, right? I think what is kind of surprising to me is that this isn't a new organization, right? It's about 6 years old. It started because of the Trayvon Martin case. But back then, corporations like Target were not scrambling to align themselves with Black Lives Matter. What's happening now? Why have things changed?
So back then, social media was not as big, right? Back then, people's voices weren't able to be heard as widely as they are able to be heard now. What's happening now is the fact that, one, we have video, right? We have video proof, and two, people's voices and people's platforms online have grown so big. The influence is so big now. So big corporations and big companies are feeling pressure. Right, it's something I talk about in For Your Discomfort. I'm tired of the bumper sticker hashtags and the bumper sticker quotes. Right, like there are companies out here and people that are simply fulfilling a quota. Right, they are simply making sure that they, were a part of Black Lives Matter when it counted. They are simply trying to be important in the moment to make sure that they are on the right side of history, so to speak. But they didn't have to be on the right side of history way back then because it wasn't as loud. Black voices weren't as loud back then as they are now. People aren't okay with how our world is forming, specifically in America, and companies are starting to hear people, and they are reacting accordingly. Some of it is genuine, but I'm not sure all of it is.
Okay, so let us talk about that, because it's one thing to say Black Lives Matter. It's another thing to act on it. What do you want to see Target, Walmart, Amazon, Facebook do? We've seen representatives of those companies kind of push back when they receive criticism for their aligning themselves with Black Lives Matter, but sort of pushing back, using your marketing department to push back is one thing. What actual change would you like to see?
Yeah, so I think, something we spoke on before was this idea of like being a non-racist versus anti-racism, right? And the difference being one is passive and one is active, right? So in this case, marketing, putting a post out there, making sure you have a picture that is quote unquote diverse is sort of passive, in my opinion, if you have power. Right, like an active decision would be to grant access, something Black people have really lacked since they were freed from slavery. We haven't had a lot of access in a lot of areas, and these companies can provide access, can provide financial backing, can do more than simply post and encourage, right? They can do more than simply check a box and be like, okay, made sure I did my Black Lives Matter duty for the day, donated to the charity, but have I actually changed my structure? Have I actually changed the people that are in positions of power within the infrastructure of my company? These are the bigger questions, and these are the things that we haven't really seen. You know what I mean?
And I think, often too, you may see companies that have maybe a person of color or a Black person who's a VP, but they're not in a position that can actually create cultural change within the entire company. So for the company, they can sort of check the box, done, but it doesn't necessarily trickle down.
At all. At all. It's that, it's the difference between diversity and inclusion. Right now, to be diverse is to make sure you have a wide spectrum and different types of people working for you, right? So that if somebody walks in, they can go, all right, this place is pretty diverse. All right, you fulfilled that requirement. of a company, but inclusion is actually having a real, true seat at the table, right? It's actually having your ideas and your decisions and your thoughts be taken seriously and be taken past the table into action, actually having access and affecting real change. And to your point, actually changing a culture of a company. Something we've talked about on For Your Discomfort a lot is right now everyone is sort of in like research mode, right? And it's a lot of like mental stimulation and making sure you post everything and making sure you know the facts and the statistics. But until you change internally as a person, right, until you change the foundation on which you stand on, then you're not really going to change overall. It's just like a costume you wear, right? It's just knowledge that you put on that you know now, but you haven't really understood it and felt it. And the same can be said for a culture at a company. Until someone of color in that company is affecting real change and is actually hurt to change the culture, then you may have changed on the outside, but the inside is still operating from a very racist place.
And I think part of what we're talking about now, just to bring it back to Black Lives Matter, is, you know, for many people, they may only see and hear Black Lives Matter in the wake of some